Good morning, welcome back to the Transcontinental Race 2023. This is day 6. Let's head over to the tracking page and see what's been going on. And as you can see, Christof Strasser has lengthened his lead over Robin Gemperle. We saw yesterday that there was about a 10-mile gap, but that is getting quite substantial now. So 30 miles is on the scale down the bottom left here. So I'd say it's almost 50 miles. So we're talking three or so hours. I mean, it's going to be relatively difficult to close that now, barring disaster, I would have thought. However, this is the Transcontinental Race, and they are entering the trickiest part of the event in terms of terrain and surfaces. So yeah, it's still not over, but it's looking kind of promising for Kristof now. We'll dig into what went into that gap creating in a second once I've rounded up the rest of the field. But as you can see, the chase pack still fairly together, although Marin is kind of edging ahead of the chasers there. And we see Will Vosden, he's actually taken the route actually that I was kind of talking about over in Ride with GPS, going down the sort of more into Croatia, and he's the only one that's done that so far. So it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. It looks like he's actually kind of closed a bit of ground, but until they kind of the routes kind of merged together in Podgorica, we won't really know. But I took a little screenshot of his route, so you can just see the line here. Now that's Kristof's route is the one that's highlighted on the right here. That's kind of the main route that everyone seems to be taken, and you see Will's gone inland here, which is pretty much what I plotted. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. I was beginning to think I'd missed a trick there because everyone had gone direct, but at least there is a few other people thinking in the same way. And I have to say as well, Will's had some excellent self-banter over on Instagram. This is his Instagram account the other day. A standard basket in the morning of a transcontinental racer, as you can see. But yeah, he's got Go Your Own Way by Fleetwood Mac playing over him, right out in the middle of Croatia while everyone else is over there. So good skills on that, Will. And again, the classic Pablo Escobar meme of him stood by himself out in Croatia. So yeah, congratulations on the self-banter. And I don't quite know how he's got the time to do that while he's racing the Transcontinental, but there we go. I'll just, while I'm here, thank Holy Fat again for supporting it. They do a range of bars and things that I've talked about before. They also do the electrolyte drinks in a range of different flavours. So there's things like mint and ginger, which I find actually quite nice on the long rides because they're just a slightly different flavour. And the mango's pretty good as well. So yeah, check those guys out. And thank you again for the support and believing in what I'm doing here. So let's head back to the tracker and just see what has been going on with the rest of the field before we focus in on the leaders and the parcours coming up as Kristof is about to hit the third checkpoint. First woman on the road, still Sherry in her pair. They're into Bosnia now, and a little further back if Follow My Challenge catches up with us. We've got Jami Wilson. You can just see her brown dot over here. Gone too far now. She's it looks like she's dropped a bit of time actually. She did have a pretty big lead over the sort of the chase pack of the women's race, but it looks like she's dropped a bit of time. Still got a fairly big gap. She's just crossing Croatia and going into Bosnia, but you can see Nikki Shaw. She's closed down a bit, as well as I forget the initials here. Susanna, of course, closing down as well, and they've actually taken the. Looks like they're going to take the Croatia route as well, same as Will, the one that I kind of plotted together. Now I know Nikki's ridden down that part of the world before, so that might be a reason for her taking it. So yeah, still all to play for in the women's route. I'm going to get rid of the tracker now before it grinds to a halt. But yeah, a steady stream of riders now heading out of the second checkpoint, and still plenty more coming through the Alps. I mean, this is the bulk of the field here. You have to remember that I'm focusing a bit on the race at the front, but most of these people are just trying to get through it, and a lot of them are doing a good job. Quite a few taking the southern route here across the Po Valley, just avoiding the mountains. and then sort of re-merging further up. So yeah, plenty to go on. Let's have a little look. Quite a bit to talk about. Let's go on to Ride with GPS. Just see, as Kristof is leading, we'll start with him, and then we'll discuss the gap between him and Robin. So this is the route I put together on Ride with GPS. As I've already mentioned, I've kind of gone for the Croatian route here in my hypothetical TCR route. A lot of riders have gone straight sort of down the centre of Bosnia towards Sarajevo, and then they've kind of like the routes would merge in Montenegro. Not quite. I mean, I didn't dig into that route in all honesty. My kind of gut instinct said Croatia just because I'm familiar, and as I discussed yesterday, I think familiarity is a big part of these things. But then all the riders, I suspect, are going to pass through Skoda, which is quite a cool little city, the first big city you get to in Albania. I've been through there three or so times, I believe. When I was doing the TCRs, there was always a checkpoint here in Kotor, so that forced us around that way. And then I went touring as well. I think I normally go through this way into Skoda, across this border crossing here, which most of the riders will do. I've also been around the other side of the lake here, which is a beautiful road. It really is a stunning part of the world. Albania and Montenegro are just really worth a visit. They're not your usual tourist destinations, but spectacular nonetheless. And yeah, they then got to get to the checkpoint, which Kristof is just about to reach as we speak. So tomorrow we'll probably have all the imagery from that checkpoint, and we'll have a better time gap with him and Robin as well. But yeah, so the checkpoint is in Burel, and as you can see by the profile here, it's pretty mountainous, and you can see on Ride with GPS the checkered markings on the elevation here. That's off-road. So we have an off-road parcours. I've highlighted it in yellow. That's the preset parcours, and it's a pretty stiff climb. It's not going to be easy for the riders. So the parcours starts after and riders then have to head towards Peshkopi. But the other complication in this area, there are a lot of banned roads. So the Transcontinental organisation provide this road resource document, just to Google Maps, and as you can see, there's lines all over the place in this area. Now I've ridden on this banned road. It's banned for the race, the E752. I've ridden parts of it in both TCRs, and I've actually ridden all the way into Tirana on it before. Now that was what, 2013, the 2014, 2015 and 2016. The thing with roads in this part of the world is that the main roads here, so Tirana is obviously the capital city of Albania, and if it was Europe it would be a big motorway or a dual carriageway, but in the countries in this particular region of Europe, they tend to just be big A roads, and there's not often very much of a shoulder, and there's a lot of traffic. It's a constant stream, and it's really not the place you want to be riding a bike. And that is the reason that those roads are banned. Now, if I recall correctly, when I was last there in 2016, they were doing some road work, so there's a fair chance that maybe it has been widened out again. But even so, there's still a hell of a lot of traffic going down that road, and you just don't want to be sending tired cyclists down there. It's kind of asking for trouble. So you can see from Skoda, there's going to be a bit of a long way round, looping round. There are roads parallel, and I think they'll need to be heading into the mountains here basically. And again, there's a few roads that you need to go on and avoid. So I think all the riders are going to funnel into the same place, and most likely are going to have a very similar route into this. Looking at the track, it looks like Christof Strasser has maybe gone this side of the road, but there's a small road parallel here, and essentially they're going to end up funneling through here, I suspect. There's not going to be an awful lot of variation, and then we're going to find out how bad this gravel is or not, as the case may be, on this parcours. We saw there was some gravel in Slovenia, but it was nothing more really than a smooth dirt road. I suspect this might be a little bit more chunky, I suppose is a good way to put it. So yeah, that's going to be interesting, and you can puncture, you can crash, you can break wheels. Things can happen, especially when riders are tired. So even though Kristof has a gap at the moment, it's no done deal at all, and that should bring me on to why that gap appeared in the first place. So we saw yesterday that the gap started to eke out. Now I read on the Transcontinental Race that Robin did sleep in a little bit, but he also had some bike issues, some tyre issues. So let's listen to see what he said. This would have been yesterday morning or around midday, and let's see what happened to him.
Troubled morning. Clock failed. Now I'm in Sarajevo getting new tires, which is probably a good idea for the rest of the race. See you later.
So yeah, essentially, he's had a puncture somewhere along the line, and he's fitted a tubeless plug. So for those of you who are not really aware of how you repair a tubeless tyre, most riders will carry. Well, I suspect a lot of riders will be running tubeless, and in order to repair a tubeless tyre, you basically, if there's a small hole, you can plug it. So riders, there's a few different methods. So this is a dyno plug. As you can see, there's basically a little dart on the end of it, and this has got a cord coated in like a vulcanizing rubber. So what you do is, if you had a hole in your puncture in your tyre, you'd essentially force that into the hole in the tyre, pull it out, and then the dart would remain in there, and then the sealant, the latex sealant inside the tyre would then seal around it. So that is what Robin is referring to as a plug. There is also a slightly different variation. Dyno plug is kind of like a specific brand name. This is the other type. It's just like a bit of, again, same thing, just not with a point on the end. The point's on the tool. But the problem with road tyres is, because there's not an awful lot of tread on there. Like they work well on mountain bike tyres because you can normally kind of get it in the angle of the tread and it sticks a bit better. I tend to always glue as well. I use like the vulcanizing glue around them. So when you stick an inner tube on a tube, there's a black bit in the middle, then there's like the orange sticky rubber around the outside, which actually sticks to the inner tube and glues with this. So that is essentially what the cord is covered in on these dyno plugs. So I tend to glue it, but on a road tyre, because it's in contact with the road all the time, it can rub and it can pull out. And it sounds like Robin's had a puncture somewhere, whether it was on the gravel, you'd probably more likely just hitting a bit of glass somewhere on the route. And it sounds like he's just had a problem. So he's had to get new tyres, and yeah, this is in Sarajevo. He's got himself up and going again, but yeah, that's going to cause him a lot of time lost. And the Transcontinental Race page has a nice post on that as well. So they caught up with him further down the road. So yeah, tubeless plug failure. Robin Gimpelli purchased new tyres near Sarajevo. He's now rolling after Strasser, so that's 2.5 hours behind. So now I reckon he's three and a bit behind, so that could be sleeping. So despite having a setback, he was in high spirits. He's now sporting a semi-slick 32mm wide city tyre. He says, "There's no choice, I was just lucky that there was more or less what I needed." And he also said that I was listening to the podcast as well, the Transcontinental Race podcast. He was suffering a bit with being quite tired in the mornings, so it sounds like he's struggling to get up a little bit. And these things make a difference at this stage of the race. Just sort of harking back about the days when I was racing, 2014, 2015, certainly 2015, the year I won it. Like, I would wake up, I just was so dialed in my head every morning. As soon as the alarm went off, I was up. I didn't even give myself time to think about staying in bed. And I'd be up and rolling within sort of 5 minutes every single morning, without doubt, without exception. And I think that's what you need to do to really, at this stage of the race, when you've got two guys like Robin and Kristof, that's really going to make the difference. And he's had some bad luck as well. So yeah, it's that's part of it. You've got to get up, you've got to get riding, you've just got to be moving. The other thing as well is, if he's on these big city tyres, they might be quite draggy. Rolling resistance on tyres is a big thing. You don't realise, but high quality tyres generally roll very well. And like city tyres, maybe with wire casings, aren't quite supple. They can be quite draggy, so that might make a difference, especially if their speed is so evenly matched. That might just edge him off and make it quite difficult for him to catch Kristof, unless Kristof could also have a puncher. So we'll see. But like he says, there's a lot of gravel coming up, and if he's on big 30mm tyres with his background as a mountain biker, remember this guy was racing World Cups in mountain bike. I'm pretty sure he'll be faster than Kristof over there. So we'll see. And he says, I want to finish or win. I don't care if I get second or third. So it makes it easier to take the big risks. So keep watching. It's going to be exciting. There's a 3-hour gap. He's been sleeping a lot. Is he going to just absolutely rip it? I suspect he's going to be a lot quicker over the parcours than Kristof. He's going to take risks, and it's going to be good to see. So that is the story with Robin and Kristof at the moment. Let's just have a little look. We've checked out the parcours. So Kristof was just in Burrell on the tracker as I started recording. So he'll be at the checkpoint now, I suspect, or very close to. Robin probably be there around midday, I would have thought, local time. Let's just go back to my Riber GPS collection and just have a little look and see what's going on for the riders over the next day or so once they're past this. So we've got a kind of a bit of a mixed. There's 4 parcours sections, and they're all kind of mixed out into smaller little chunks. If it loads up in time, I'll show you. Which it isn't. Here we go. Yeah. So as you can see, you can plot a relatively flat route in this next section before you get into sort of the centre of Greece here. Now, so the parcours is up through the top here, and then they're going to basically just go south, probably in a bit into Macedonia, and then potentially back into Albania. Maybe they'll need to go avoid that border. I've planned on this route going through because it's flatter. Not quite sure how that's going to affect things, but it should be relatively straightforward. It just means there's an extra border crossing in there. This lake here, I've ridden up around here and then over this lake. It's absolutely spectacular. There's some big old mountains up there. It's just a fantastic part of the world. So they're going to be really, it's going to be really good for them. I'll put the terrain on just to sort of give a bit more of a sort of judge of the elevation of the mountains. And then I think they can probably pick their way through this area. There are a few band roads in that area. And then as you can see, it's going to be quite circuitous to get to the checkpoint. So Meteora is where the checkpoint is here, checkpoint 4. But there's a double parcours. There's actually 4 sections to this parcours. The section 4C is after Meteora, so we won't deal with that now. But there's 2 sections here. And basically, it looks like they've made the start of the dirt mountain road as part 4A. And part 4B is the end section. So basically, they're trying to make you go over this road. Basically, I think that rather than making I suspect it's probably sketchy. It's probably quite rocky. And I suspect it's probably not to the taste of all riders. Some riders might want to go up, down and around. I don't think our leaders will do that, especially Robin. Robin's going to take risks now. He's going to push hard. But as you can see, I've plotted it going straight over. I mean, I'm a fairly competent mountain biker, so I'd go straight over the top. And yeah, I reckon Robin might take a bit of time out of Kristof here. He won't be holding back, especially with his big chunky tyres now. So that is what the riders are going to be looking forward to. Probably, I suspect, well, this is 343 miles. They'll be getting there this evening. They might even be doing it in the dark. That would be quite interesting as well, before they hit Meteora for the checkpoint up here. So that's going to be well worth keeping an eye on the race for over the coming days. So we'll leave Riber GPS for now. One other little Instagram story, just while we're on the talking about this region. So Simon Geyser, he's in that chase pack behind Marin, and this is what some of the roads can be like in this area. They're not always outside the main highways. They're not always that pristine. They're quite patched. You know, there's patches upon patches upon patches. So there's potholes. You need to be aware all the time. and as you can see, the good roads, it's not a silky smooth surface. So it's just another little thing you've got to think about once you're getting into this part of the world. Right, now the next thing to talk about, I had a question yesterday. Obviously there's been a lot of fires in Greece, certainly in the islands, and someone in the comments asked me, would the fires affect the race? And well, basically what I did was I found that NASA have like a fire information website, obviously satellite imagery. So in answer to that question, no, I don't think there will be I don't think there will be any issues. You can see this is the last 24 hours. Each dot is a little fire, and you can see the riders passing through this region, climbing up and skirting these lakes here, and then heading down into the mountains. So I don't think there's going to be any issues with fires. It's certainly been very hot, and there has been issues. So if we put the last 7 days on, it really does highlight. You can see all the fires that were on. I think it was roads. Certainly in the news in the UK, there was a lot of people being evacuated. But to answer that question, no, I don't think fires are going to have too much of an effect on the race. But you never know. The good thing is, though, it's a free route race, so unless it's on a parcours, the riders will basically have to work it out themselves and go around. So that is pretty much it. Before I finish, I will just say check out the Transcontinental Instagram. Loads of really cool images. As always, they've got some amazing photographers on the ground. And quite often, they get the real people stories because they're there with everyone. This guy's cutting the heels out of his shoes. His feet are obviously expanding or rubbing, doing a bit of on the fly. Can we call it maintenance adjustments? And there's a lot of sleepy looking riders in checkpoints, and yeah, it's just really cool to see, and it makes you want to be out there. Inner tube mending, tubelitos. Well, let's not go into tubelitos, they're not the best tubes in the world, let's say. And yeah, so check that out. Check out the podcast as well, and I should be back tomorrow with day 7. That's gone quick, hasn't it? Day 7 updates. If you've got any questions, just put them in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe if you've enjoyed it and you want to see more of this kind of thing, and I shall see you tomorrow, and our lead riders should be at the next checkpoint. So see you then.